Hey everyone, welcome back. I'm Gordo and I have something special here. So, we all know that the video game industry is shifting and changing. And unfortunately, like everything else in society, prices are going up on video games. And this is the best time for us to get into retro gaming. So, I've been raiding my closet to see if I find any retro consoles so I can refurbish them or even make them better. And what I have here is a Game Boy Color. Now, Game Boy Color came out a long time ago, but ever since then, there have been a lot of improvements on the quality of the screens that you can actually get to refurbish your Game Boy Color. So this screen was sourced from Retro Gaming Shop, and I believe the manufacturer is Funny Gaming. I'll leave a link in the description to both. So from the time I bought this to the time I got it was about a week. So I do recommend Retro Gaming Shop. It was packaged very well. The OLED came in a hard case shaped like a Game Boy cartridge. And the instructions are very straightforward. They're on their website, and I could definitely recommend this upgrade. So now you might be asking, why is Gordo, who mainly does 3D printing content, doing this? Well, so how I got into 3D printing was I actually wanted to create a handheld using my Raspberry Pi, and the only way to get a case for it was to actually 3D print it. So kind of related. And honestly, like if you're into 3D printing and you want to start creating stuff, you want to start learning how to solder. And this, even though it has 2 points of soldering, but it's still practice, and I recommend it. Is a great skill to have, especially if you're a tinkerer like me. The only complaint I have is that this case was not built to the same standards as the original case. Obviously, this is not OEM. It is a third-party case. And I felt that some of the buttons felt a little different after I put it together, but it's not a big deal. It's still serviceable. I like it. It feels good. It's not a big deal. Now, taking apart this console, I won't get too much into the nitty-gritty of it, but it's pretty simple. The only things you have to be careful of is taking these ribbon cables off, as if you break it, you bought it per se, meaning you're gonna have to buy a new one, so just be careful. But once you get the feel for it, it's not that hard after a while. And then, it's a matter of getting the other case, getting the buttons, the membranes for the buttons, putting them aside so that you could put it in the new case. The new case did bring some buttons, but they didn't feel right, so I opted for keeping the old buttons with the new case. Also, clean the black contacts, as this is an old Game Boy and it's probably been passed around. I'm the second owner, so just clean it as best as possible, just so that you have the best contact when you're pressing down the buttons. As you can see, I'm comparing the buttons between the one that came with the new case and the old ones I had, and I just felt that it was a better fit. So now we're getting ready to bring out the OLED and actually make the connections, the ribbon cable connections. Now this comes in two parts. This comes with a daughter board that needs to be connected to the motherboard, and then the daughter board is connected to the actual OLED. Another important aspect is to test fit your parts, because if they don't fit and then you put everything together and you solder things together, you will live to regret it, and it'll be a bad feeling when you realize that you spent all this time and then you have to go back and undo your work so you could do it right the next time. The OLED came with adhesive pre-applied. The reason to buy one of these aftermarket cases is, one, it's transparent and it looks cool, first and foremost. right off the bat. Second is because with the OEM case, you will have to cut a bunch of parts to make it fit. But these are made specifically for these newer OLEDs. So I recommend you pay an extra couple of dollars and just buy it. And here's the moment we've all been waiting for. The moment I burn my fingers. No, I won't burn my fingers this time. But this is only 2 points of soldering. And ever since I made this upgrade, I've messed up one DS Lite and one PSP. I'll try to fix both, but I got overconfident when I realized that, oh my God, I could do this, and I messed them up. But I'll fix them, and it'll be great content. So in this part, we're gonna actually try to thread one of the ribbon cables through one of the boards, but be careful, be very careful, because I found out that these OLEDs are a little bit fragile, and if you put too much pressure on them, they'll crack and you have an issue. That's the reason I'm putting a piece of paper under it, and I'm not pressing as hard as I should, but it's pretty snug. Here I'm putting, the membranes back after cleaning them. Make sure you clean them with isopropyl alcohol. And like I said, the buttons, the OEM buttons, are a lot better than the ones that come with the case. So this is what I used. And for the love of God, when you're putting the case back, make sure that everything that you needed to do was done prior to actually screwing everything down, because you'll have to do it again. And unfortunately, I'm a perpetrator of that, and I needed to take it apart several times because I missed a membrane here or I missed something else. So just take your time, make sure everything's done. There's no rush. Trust me, it'll pay off at the end. The OLED that came from Retro Gaming Shop came with this piece of plastic, and the piece of plastic serves as a divider between both boards so that there's no shorts. So make sure you keep this and make sure you place it exactly where I'm showing. And then it's a matter of the ribbon cable going in to the motherboard, and then try to screw things together before we get to the next part where we solder the power connection from the Game Boy to the power connection of the OLED. The ribbon connection right here is a little bit tricky. It took me a little bit to get used to it, but take your time so that you don't break it, because like I said before, if this is broken, you're gonna have to buy a whole new OLED. So make sure you take your time and do this right. And here's where we make the final connection for the OLED to get power from the motherboard of the Game Boy. Now, it's pretty easy. Just be careful. Also, get a fume extractor. This was pretty cheap. You don't want to start breathing these solder fumes. They're no good for you. But this part was a little bit complicated for me, only because I haven't soldered anything in years. But once you get it, you'll get it connected and it'll be fine. I did use flux to make this connection, so I'm using isopropyl alcohol to clean the flux. Now, you don't have to use flux, but flux makes soldering very easy, so I do recommend that. And make sure you clean the area. I don't know what the flux does if you don't clean it. I've been told that it might corrode your board. I'm not sure, but just make sure it's clean. It's pretty easy to clean with isopropyl alcohol. I did use some Kapton tape to keep the wire out of the way. I did align the power button, the exterior or the case's power button, to the tab for the motherboard button. Don't forget to do this, otherwise you won't be able to turn it on, and then it's just a matter of screwing everything back on, and hopefully if you did everything right, it'll turn on. Fingers crossed. And with the cartridge in, here goes nothing. Yes, success. Now you can pat yourself on the back and enjoy all the Game Boy games that you have, Pokemon, etc. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like. And if you enjoy the content I make here, please subscribe. Take care of yourselves and your loved ones. And I hope you had a happy Thanksgiving. Peace.